"Help, they're hurting my mum," said the little girl, but what the motorcyclist did. Melissa Turner was in a panic. The hospital paper trembled so much in her hands that she could barely read the printed words, but she didn't need to read them again. The sentences were already etched in her mind, as if they had been branded with a hot iron. Her brother Michael tried to hold her by the arms, while she screamed that she wouldn't do it, that she'd rather do anything than go through that treatment. That's when little Emma, just 6 years old, came running into the room and saw the scene, her mother in tears, her uncle holding her, medicines scattered across the floor. The girl didn't understand. She thought the worst. She ran out of the apartment barefoot, her curly hair flying behind her as she stumbled down the stairs. Oak Street in the Oakwood Heights neighborhood of Portland was busy that Friday afternoon. Emma ran to the middle of the sidewalk, shouting with all the strength in her lungs, "Help! Help! They're hurting my mom!" She frantically pointed to the third-floor window of the faded yellow building, from where Melissa's screams echoed through the open window. People stopped to look, but nobody moved, until the roar of 2 motorcycles caught the girls' attention. Robert Wilson and Kevin Mitchell were returning from a delivery when they saw the scene. 2 men in their 40s, black leather jackets, dark beards, and an appearance that normally made people cross the street. But when they saw that desperate child, they didn't hesitate. Robert braked sharply and was already getting off his motorcycle before even turning off the engine. "What happened, little one?" "My mom, there's a man hurting her upstairs," Emma cried, pulling hard on Robert's leather jacket. "Apartment 305. Kevin was already running toward the building entrance. Robert picked Emma up in his arms and climbed the stairs behind his friend, 3 steps at a time. When they reached the 3rd floor, the apartment door was slightly ajar and the screams were getting louder. They entered without knocking. The scene they encountered wasn't what they expected. Melissa was on the living room floor, surrounded by medicine boxes. Michael was holding her wrists carefully, trying to stop her from throwing the medications out the window. He had tears in his eyes. "Melissa, please stop this. You need to take these medicines. I won't go through this," she screamed, struggling. "I can't take it, Michael. I can't take it." Robert carefully put Emma down and approached slowly, his hands raised to show he wasn't a threat. "Easy, easy. Nobody here is going to hurt anyone." Michael turned his head quickly, startled by the presence of the 2 unknown men in the apartment. He immediately released his sister's wrists. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "The girl asked for help on the street," Kevin explained, observing the situation. "We thought someone was assaulting your sister." Melissa raised her red, swollen eyes to the 2 strangers, then looked at Emma, who ran to her and clung to her neck. "Mommy, I thought Uncle Michael was hitting you." "No, my love, no." Melissa hugged her daughter tightly, trying to control her sobs. "Uncle was just trying to help me." Robert looked around. He saw the medicine boxes on the floor, some opened information leaflets, a crumpled hospital paper near the door. He recognized that type of medication. His stomach tightened. "Oral chemotherapy?" he asked quietly. Melissa closed her eyes and nodded, pressing Emma against her chest. Michael ran his hands over his face, exhausted. "She got the diagnosis this morning. She ran away from the hospital before properly speaking with the oncologist. When she got here, she started throwing the medicines away, saying she wouldn't do the treatment." Kevin felt a weight in his chest. He knew that desperation well. She had seen her own mother go through this years ago. "May I sit?" he asked, pointing to the old floral print sofa. Melissa looked at him suspiciously but nodded yes. Kevin sat down slowly, removing his leather jacket to reveal a simple shirt underneath. "My mother had breast cancer 8 years ago. She wanted to give up at first, too. Said she'd rather face anything than lose her hair, get sick from chemo, become a burden to us." Melissa wiped her tears with the back of her hand but said nothing. Emma remained glued to her. "You know what my father told her?" Kevin continued, his voice soft but firm. "He said she had every right to choose. But if she gave up, it wouldn't be the cancer taking her away, it would be fear. You don't understand." Melissa's voice came out hoarse. "I have a young daughter. She can't see me like this. Bald, sick, vomiting. Would you rather she see you giving up?" Robert spoke for the first time, his voice harsher than Kevin's. "Because that's what you're teaching her right now." Melissa raised her gaze, eyes blazing with anger and pain. "Who do you think you are to talk to me like that?" "Someone who lost his wife because she found out too late," Robert answered, his voice trembling slightly. "Someone who'd give anything to have had the chance you have now." Silence hung heavy in the room. Even Emma stopped crying, sensing the tension in the air. Michael was the first to move, gathering the medicines from the floor. "Melissa, you hid this from me for months. Got tests in secret, went to appointments alone. Why?" "Because I didn't want to worry anyone." She held Emma tighter. "Because I thought I could handle this alone." "How's that working out?" Michael asked, without malice, just tired. "You ran away from the hospital, almost threw the medicines out the window, scared your daughter." Emma lifted her little head from her mother's shoulder. "Mummy, are you sick?" Melissa took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her world might crumble? "I am, sweetheart, but the doctors can help me get better." "Then why don't you want to take the medicine?" Laura's simple, direct question cut deeper than any argument the adults could make. Melissa opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Kevin leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "My mother lost all her hair during treatment, wore colorful scarves, sometimes wore nothing at all. You know what my 5-year-old nephew told her? That she looked like a superhero, that only really strong people go bald on purpose." Emma looked at Kevin with wide eyes. "Is the man's grandma a superhero?" "Yes, she is." Kevin smiled for the first time, and today she's cured. Her hair grew back and she never misses a senior dance. Melissa let out a wet laugh through her tears. It was a strange sound, almost hysterical, but it was a start. "You listen to music on the phone late at night," Emma said suddenly, changing the subject like only children can. "And cry quietly. I hear you through the hallway." Melissa froze. She thought Emma was always asleep when she stayed up late, researching the illness, reading other women's stories, crying in the dark kitchen. "I heard you talking to someone about tests, and about being scared." Emma continued, her small voice steady. "I already knew something was wrong, Mommy." Michael sat beside his sister on the floor, putting his arm around her shoulders. Robert remained standing, leaning against the wall, watching the scene with an unreadable expression. "When my wife was sick, I became obsessed with protecting our son from everything," he said. "I wouldn't let him see her on bad days, made up excuses when she couldn't get out of bed. You know what happened?" Melissa shook her head. "He got angry with me, said I stole his last months with his mother, that he wanted to be by her side, even during the difficult days." "How old was he?" Melissa asked quietly. 7. Emma was 6, a year younger, but perhaps already old enough to understand more than Melissa gave her credit for. Loud knocks on the door made everyone turn their heads. A woman around 50 with dyed blonde hair appeared in the doorway with her arms crossed. "Can someone explain what's happening here?" she asked, irritated. "The noise is unbearable." "Sorry, Mrs. Barbara." Michael stood up quickly. "It was just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding? I heard shouting. I heard people running on the stairs. There are 2 motorcycles parked haphazardly in front of the building." Barbara entered the apartment uninvited, her flip-flops slapping the floor. "What's going on, Melissa?" Melissa tried to compose herself, wiping her face with her hands. "It's nothing, Mrs. Barbara. Just a family discussion." "Family discussion? Are you okay? You—" Barbara stopped mid-sentence when her eyes landed on the medicine boxes on the floor. She bent down and picked one up, read the label. Her face completely changed. "Oh, honey." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Barbara's expression shifted from irritated to worried in a matter of seconds. She knelt beside Melissa, completely ignoring the 2 strange bikers in the living room. "When did you find out?" "This morning," Melissa replied, her voice almost disappearing. "I had the biopsy last week. The results came out today." "And you went to get them alone?" Barbara held Melissa's face with both hands, forcing her to make eye contact. "Girl, why didn't you call me?" "I didn't want anyone to know." "Nonsense." Barbara sat on the floor beside her, not caring if her skirt got dirty. I went through this 4 years ago. Uterine cancer. Melissa's eyes widened. You? Yes, I had surgery and 6 months of chemotherapy. Look here. Barbara turned her head, showing her blonde hair. I lost it all. When it grew back, it came in grey, so I dye it. But it grew back, Melissa, and I'm still here. Emma loosened her grip on her mother's hug a little to look at Mrs. Barbara with curiosity. Are you a superhero too? Barbara laughed, a genuine laugh that cut through the tension in the room. Yes, I am, little one. All of us women are. Robert and Kevin exchanged a look. This was taking a direction they hadn't expected. Kevin cleared his throat. I think we should go. It seems like you have support now. Wait. Melissa spoke before they could move. I don't even know your names. Robert Wilson. He introduced himself, making a vague gesture with his head. Kevin Mitchell, the other added. Thank you for coming, Melissa said, and it was sincere. I know it must have seemed strange, you coming in here like that, but thank you. We didn't do anything, Robert murmured, uncomfortable with the gratitude. Yes, you did, Michael intervened. You made her stop and listen. I'd been trying for an hour and she wouldn't hear me. Barbara looked at the medicine in her hand and then at Melissa. Were you throwing them away? Melissa lowered her eyes, ashamed. I panicked. I understand. Barbara squeezed her hand. On my first day of chemo, I sat in the hospital bathroom for 2 hours refusing to come out. My husband had to convince me it was safe. And how did he convince you? He said he'd sit by my side during every session, that we'd go through it together. Barbara smiled, but it was a sad smile. He kept his promise. Every session he was there. My dad isn't here, Emma said suddenly. He left when I was a baby. The silence grew heavy in the room again. Melissa closed her eyes, another pain adding to the others. I know, my love. But there's Uncle Michael, Emma continued, pointing at her uncle. And Mrs. Barbara. And there are these motorcycle guys too. You're not alone, Mommy. Of all the arguments, all the emotional appeals, it was the simple logic of a 6-year-old that finally broke Melissa's last resistance. She started crying again, but this time the tears were different. Not of despair, but of something that resembled hope. Kevin stood up, grabbing his leather jacket. Look, I know we're just 2 strangers who showed up here, but... He pulled a crumpled card from his pocket and handed it to Michael. If you need anything at all, just call. We work with deliveries, so we know the whole city. If you need to pick up medicine, get a ride to an appointment, whatever. Michael took the card, surprised. You do that? We do that, Robert corrected. There's a group of motorcyclists here in the neighborhood. We help those in need. But why? Melissa asked, genuinely confused. You don't even know me. Robert looked at her for a long moment before answering. Because when my wife was sick, I didn't know who to ask for help. And when she was gone, I swore I'd never let someone go through that alone if I could do something about it. He didn't wait for a response. He turned and left the apartment, his heavy footsteps echoing in the hallway. Kevin gave an apologetic smile. He doesn't like talking about it, but he's serious. Anything, just call. After the riders left, Barbara helped Melissa get up from the floor. Michael gathered all the medicines and arranged them neatly on the kitchen table. You need to go back to the hospital, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. Talk properly with the oncologist, understand the treatment. I know. Melissa held Emma's hand. I need a minute. You have all the time you need, Barbara assured, but you can't wait too long. The sooner you start, the better. Emma tugged her mother's hand. Mommy, can I go to the appointment with you? Melissa hesitated. She wanted to protect her daughter from all this, but Robert's words still echoed in her mind. Did she want to protect Emma, or was she protecting herself from facing her own situation? Yes, you can, my love. Promise? I promise. Barbara stayed with them for another hour, talking about her own treatment, giving practical tips, sharing the names of support groups. Michael called the hospital and rescheduled the appointment with the oncologist for the following Monday. When Barbara finally left, it was already getting dark outside. Emma had fallen asleep in Melissa's lap on the couch. Michael sat beside his sister, the exhaustion evident on his face. "You scared me today." "I scared myself too," Melissa admitted. "When the doctor said that, it was like the floor disappeared beneath my feet." "I sold my motorcycle." Melissa turned her head so fast she almost woke Emma. "What?" "To pay for the private tests. You thought the health insurance covered everything, but they denied part of it. I sold the bike and paid." "Michael, no. That motorcycle was—" "It was an object," he interrupted. "You're my sister. Emma is my niece. A motorcycle is nothing compared to you two." Melissa started crying again, but held back the sobs to avoid waking her daughter. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. You just need to let me help this time, without hiding things, without trying to carry everything alone." She nodded, not trusting her own voice. That night, after putting Emma to sleep, Melissa sat in the small room she shared with her daughter. The two-bedroom apartment was cramped. The building was old, but it was theirs. She had been working as a cashier at a supermarket for 8 years, ever since her ex-husband left her when she was 6 months pregnant. She picked up her phone and looked at the card Michael had left on the nightstand. Mitchell's Quick Delivery. It had a phone number and an address in the neighboring area. She wasn't going to call. Of course not. They were strangers. But still, she kept the card in the drawer. On Saturday morning, Emma woke up early and jumped into Melissa's bed. "Mommy, get up. I want to make pancakes." Melissa groaned, pulling the pillow over her head. Her whole body ached, as if she had been beaten up. It was the stress from the previous day taking its toll. "In a little while, sweetie." "But I already set everything up in the kitchen." That made Melissa sit up in bed, alarmed. Emma alone in the kitchen was never a good idea. "You didn't touch the stove, did you?" "No, I swear. I just got the bowl and the flour and maybe I spilled a little on the floor." Melissa sighed and got up. When she reached the kitchen, she saw that "a little" was a generous understatement. There was flour everywhere. "Emma, I'm sorry. I wanted to surprise you." It was impossible to stay mad looking at that little face smeared with flour and genuine remorse. Melissa gently wiped her daughter's cheek. "It's okay. Let's do it together, okay?" They spent the morning making pancakes and making an even bigger mess. They laughed so much that Melissa almost forgot that on Monday she would have to go back to the hospital and face reality. Almost. Michael showed up in the middle of the afternoon with grocery bags. "I bought food for the week, and look here." He carefully took a small box out of the bag. "Portuguese custard tarts from the bakery. I remembered you loved them." Melissa took the box, her eyes welling up again. She had cried more in the last 24 hours than in the entire year. "You're spoiling me." "And I'll keep spoiling you," he joked, ruffling her hair like he did when they were kids. "Get used to it." They spent the rest of Saturday watching cartoons with Emma, eating junk food, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. But Monday came too quickly. Melissa woke up with a knot in her stomach. She had taken time off work, using the excuse of a routine checkup. She hadn't told anyone at work yet. She didn't know how to tell them. Emma insisted on going along, as promised. Melissa dressed her in the best outfit she had, a blue dress her grandmother had given her for her birthday. It didn't make sense to dress up so much to go to the hospital, but Melissa needed something to hold on to, some familiar routine. Michael drove silently to the hospital. It was a public hospital, large and busy, with peeling walls and plastic chairs in the waiting room. They waited 40 minutes before being called. Dr. William Anderson was a man in his 50s, with graying hair and thin-framed glasses. He looked at Emma and then at Melissa, with an expression that clearly said he didn't think it was appropriate for a child to be there. "Are you sure you want her to stay?" "I am," Melissa replied, holding Emma's hand firmly. "She already knows I'm sick. I'd rather she hear it from you than make things up in her head." The doctor nodded slowly and opened the folder with the test results. The biopsy results confirmed invasive ductal carcinoma. It's an aggressive type, but we caught it relatively early, stage 2. Melissa felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. She had known the diagnosis since Friday, but hearing it again with Emma by her side made it all more real. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It means we need to act fast," the doctor explained. picking up some printed papers. My recommendation is to start with neoadjuvant chemotherapy. Sessions every 3 weeks for 6 months. The goal is to shrink the tumor before surgery. Surgery? Yes. After chemo, we'll do a partial mastectomy. Remove the tumor and a safety margin around it. Depending on the results, you might need radiation therapy afterward. The words swirled in Melissa's head. Chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, mastectomy. It was too much. What if I do nothing? The doctor took off his glasses and looked directly at her. The tumor will grow. It will spread to the lymph nodes, then to other organs. Without treatment, your life expectancy is 2 to 5 years. Emma squeezed her mother's hand so hard it hurt. But if Mommy does the treatment? The doctor looked at the girl, surprised by the direct question. The chances of cure are about 80%. Most patients respond well to the treatment. Then Mommy will do it, Emma decided, as if it were that simple. Are there side effects? Michael asked, speaking for the first time. Yes. The doctor didn't downplay it. Nausea, extreme fatigue, hair loss, mouth sores, changes in taste, risk of infections. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Melissa closed her eyes. She already knew all this. She had spent Friday night and all Saturday researching online, reading horrible accounts from women who had gone through the treatment. But she had also read about women who survived, who had been cured for 5, 10, 15 years. When do I start? As soon as possible. I'll refer you to oncology. The first session can be scheduled for next week. They left the appointment in silence. Emma swung her legs in the hallway chair while Michael handled the paperwork. Melissa was so lost in thought that she didn't notice when someone sat next to her. I remember you, from Friday. Melissa looked up and was startled. It was Robert, the biker, but he looked different. Without the leather jacket, wearing simple jeans and a white t-shirt. He seemed younger, more tired. What are you doing here? My son has an appointment with the psychologist, he explained, looking down the hallway. He's still dealing with his mother's loss. I'm sorry. Me too. Robert rubbed his face with his hands. Sorry for being rude on Friday. I had no right to talk to you like that. No, you did, Melissa corrected. You made me stop feeling sorry for myself long enough to think straight. Did you decide to do the treatment? Yes, I start next week. Robert nodded approvingly. It's the right choice. A boy about 8 years old appeared in the hallway, looking around until he spotted Robert. He had dark hair like his father, but lighter eyes. He looked at Melissa curiously. Hi, Dad. Hi, Nathan. Are you done? I'm done. Dr. Michelle wants to talk to you before we leave. Robert stood up, but before leaving he looked at Melissa one last time. Stay strong. You'll need it. They walked away down the hallway. Emma watched everything carefully. Mommy, is that the motorcycle man? Yes, he is. He looks sad. He is, Melissa agreed. He lost someone very important to him. Like Grandma Margaret? Melissa felt her chest tighten. Her mother had died of a heart attack 3 years ago. Emma was only 3 at the time, but she still remembered her. Yes, sweetheart. Like Grandma. I don't want to lose you too, Mommy. Melissa pulled Emma into a tight hug, feeling the tears return. You won't lose me. I promise I'll fight with everything I have. Michael returned with a stack of papers and a calendar marked with colorful stickers. First session is next Thursday, 10 in the morning. Melissa took the paper, looking at the date, Thursday, 10 days from now. It seemed both very far away and very close at the same time. The following days passed in a strange haze. Melissa returned to work on Tuesday, but couldn't concentrate. She scanned the products at the self-checkout, mechanically smiling at the customers, counting the minutes until she could leave. On Wednesday, the manager called her into the office. Melissa, is everything okay with you? You seem distant. Everything's fine, she lied. Just tired. If you need a few days off, just let me know. Melissa almost told her. Almost. But the words got stuck in her throat. If she told the manager, she'd have to tell everyone. and she wasn't ready for that yet. On Thursday night, Emma woke up screaming. Melissa ran to the room and found her daughter sitting on the bed, crying. "It was just a nightmare, my love. It's okay." "I dreamed that you went away," Emma sobbed, "and I was left all alone." "I'm not going anywhere," Melissa said, holding her daughter's face with both hands. "I'm staying right here with you." "But what if the medicine doesn't work?" "It will work." "How do you know?" Melissa didn't know. There was no way to know. But she couldn't let Emma see the fear she herself felt. "Because I'm going to do everything right. I'll take all the medicine, go to all the appointments, do everything the doctors say, and you'll stay by my side, giving me strength. Deal?" Emma nodded, still sniffling. "Deal." They slept together that night, holding each other. Melissa stayed awake for hours, listening to Emma's soft breathing, trying to etch that moment into her memory. How many more nights would they have like this? How many hugs? How many bedtime stories? The weekend came too quickly. Michael suggested they go out to distract themselves, so they took Emma to the park. It was a beautiful sunny day, children running everywhere, parents pushing swings, dogs chasing balls. Melissa sat on a bench while Emma played on the slide. Michael bought popcorn from a street vendor and sat next to her. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," she admitted. "Me too." They sat in silence for a while, watching Emma play with other children. A young mother was pushing a baby in a stroller. An elderly couple walked hand in hand. Normal life, life that went on regardless of everything. "I haven't told anyone at work yet," Melissa said suddenly. "You'll have to tell them. You'll need to miss work for the sessions." "I know, I just don't know how." "Do you want me to go with you?" Melissa shook her head. "I need to do this alone." On Monday morning, before her shift started, Melissa asked to speak with the manager. She sat in the usual chair in the tiny office that smelled of stale coffee and told her everything. The manager, a woman in her 40s named Linda, listened in silence. When Melissa finished, she took off her glasses and cleaned them with the edge of her blouse. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want it to change how people see me." "This doesn't change anything," Linda said firmly. "You're going to need help, and we're going to give it to you. Your shifts, your days off, whatever you need. But Melissa, don't try to do this alone, please." It was the first time someone from work had been kind to her in years. Melissa didn't know how to handle it. She left the office with teary eyes and went straight to the bathroom, where she cried for 10 minutes before pulling herself together. The news spread quickly. At lunchtime, several co-workers came to talk to her, some with stories of relatives who had been through it, others just with silent hugs. One of the packers, a woman in her 60s named Ruth, brought a printed silk scarf. "My mother wore this when she lost her hair. Now I want you to have it." Melissa took the scarf with trembling hands. It was genuine silk, with a pattern of yellow and blue flowers. It must have been expensive. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," Ruth said, closing Melissa's hands around the scarf. "It's for good luck." On Tuesday, Michael took Melissa to the pharmacy to buy the medications she would need to take at home, along with the chemotherapy. The attendant looked at the prescription and typed into the computer. His expression changed when he saw the amount. "That'll be $1,200. Melissa thought she had misheard. "How much?" $1,200. It's for chemotherapy, right? These medications are imported." Melissa looked at Michael, desperate. She didn't have $1,200. She could barely pay the month's bills. "Let me see what I can do," Michael said, pulling her aside. "I have some money saved. You already sold your motorcycle. I won't let you spend more." "Melissa, no," she was firm. "I'll figure something out." But how? She had no family besides Michael. She had no savings. She had no one. They left the pharmacy without the medications. Melissa tried calling the hospital to ask about assistance programs, but she was on hold for 40 minutes before giving up. She was walking back home, lost in thought, when she accidentally bumped into someone on the corner. "Sorry, I didn't see—" "Easy, easy, it's okay." It was Kevin, the motorcycle rider. He was wearing his usual leather jacket, helmet under his arm. "Do you always appear out of nowhere?" Melissa asked, trying to force a joke. "I work around here," he smiled. "By the way, how are you?" "Fine," she lied. I start treatment tomorrow. That's good. Kevin noticed her expression. You're not doing too well, are you? Melissa sighed. There was no use lying. I found out how much the medications cost. How much? $1,200. Kevin whistled softly. That is expensive. I don't know how I'm going to get that money. Wait here. Before she could ask what he was going to do, Kevin was already crossing the street and entering a small mechanic's shop. He came back 5 minutes later with another man, older, with coveralls stained with grease. This is Mr. Reynolds. He's the owner of the shop. The man wiped his hand on his coveralls before extending it to Melissa. Pleasure. Kevin told me about your situation. I don't know what he told you, but I'm not asking for charity. It's not charity, Mr. Reynolds cut in. It's community. We have a fund here in the neighborhood for emergencies, illnesses, repairs, things like that. How much do you need? I can't. How much? Melissa looked at Kevin, who nodded encouragingly. $1,200, but I'll pay it back, I swear. No rush, Mr. Reynolds smiled. We're not in a hurry. He went back into the shop and came out 5 minutes later with a manila envelope. He handed it to Melissa. It's all here. $1,200. Melissa opened the envelope, incredulous. There were $50 and $100 bills, all neatly counted. The tears came back, but this time she didn't even try to hold them back. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. You just need to take care of yourself. And when you're better, you help someone else. That's how it works here. Kevin walked her back to the pharmacy and waited while she bought the medications. When they came out, he looked at his watch. Look, I know it's kind of last minute, but some of the riders planned to meet up tonight. We wanted to invite you. And your brother, too, and Emma, of course. What for? To meet everyone, Kevin explained. Like a support network. There are a lot of people in the group who have been through similar things. It could be good. Melissa hesitated. She didn't know these people, but at the same time they had already helped her more than anyone else. What time? 7 tonight, at Mr. Reynolds's shop. We'll think about it. Great, Kevin smiled. If you don't show up, it's okay, but we'll be there. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. When Melissa got home, Michael was making lunch. The aroma of rice and beans filled the small apartment. Emma was drawing at the living room table, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Look, Mom, she showed the drawing. It's you and me at the beach. In the drawing, 2 stick figures smiled under a huge sun. Blue waves touched their feet. Melissa felt her heart tighten. It had been 2 years since she'd taken Emma to the beach. She didn't have money for trips, nor time. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Michael appeared in the kitchen doorway, drying his hands on a dish towel. Did you get the medicine? Melissa showed the pharmacy bag. Then she told him about meeting Kevin and Mr. Reynolds. Michael listened to everything in silence. $1,200? Just like that? Yes. He said there's a community fund. That exists? Apparently, yes. Michael scratched his beard, thoughtful. And this meeting tonight? Kevin said it's to meet the group of riders. That several have been through similar situations. Do you want to go? Melissa didn't know. Part of her wanted to lock herself at home and hide from the world, but another part, a small but persistent part, was curious. These people had helped without asking for anything in return. Maybe it was worth getting to know them better. I think so, she decided, but only for a little while. At 7 in the evening, they were in front of Mr. Reynolds' workshop. It was a low building, painted grey with a sliding metal door. Several motorcycles were parked in front. Melissa held Emma's hand tighter. Is everything okay, Mum? Yes, sweetheart. Michael pushed the door, and they entered. The inside of the workshop had been cleaned for the occasion. The tools were organized on the shelves, the floor swept. There were about 15 people there, sitting on folding chairs forming a circle. Kevin saw them coming in and waved. You came. That's great. He guided them to the empty chairs. Melissa recognized some people. Mr. Reynolds was there, now in a clean shirt. Barbara, the neighbour, had also come, and Robert, the rider who had lost his wife, was sitting in the back with his son, Nathan. "Everyone, this is Melissa, Michael, and Emma," Kevin introduced. "Melissa will start treatment tomorrow." There were murmurs of support around the circle. An older woman with completely white hair cut short stood up. "My name is Helen. I facilitate these meetings. Welcome, dear." "Thank you," Melissa murmured, feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the attention. Helen explained how the meetings worked. They met once a month, sometimes more when someone needed it. They shared stories, offered practical support, organized financial help when necessary. It wasn't charity, she emphasized. It was community. "Who wants to start today?" Helen asked. A thin man, about 50, timidly raised his hand. "I can start. My name is George. I've been in remission for 3 years, prostate cancer." He told his story, how he discovered the illness, the terror he felt, the difficulties of treatment. But he also told about the small victories. The first day without vomiting. The day his hair started growing back. The day the doctor said he was free of cancer. After George, it was a woman named Rachel's turn. She had gone through colon cancer 2 years ago. She still had regular checkups, but she was well. "The hardest part wasn't the treatment," Rachel confessed. "It was going back to living afterward. I was so afraid it would come back that I couldn't enjoy anything." "And how did you overcome that?" someone asked. "Therapy. Lots of time and lots of therapy," Rachel smiled. "And this group here helped too." The stories continued around the circle. Some happy, others sad. All real. Emma stayed quiet on Melissa's lap, listening to everything attentively. When it was Robert's turn, he hesitated for a long time before speaking. "My name is Robert. I didn't have cancer. But my wife Jennifer did. She didn't survive." The silence in the workshop was heavy. Nathan, sitting beside his father, stared at the floor. "Jennifer found out too late," Robert continued, his voice hoarse. "The cancer had already spread when they diagnosed her. She went through treatment, but it wasn't enough." "Why do you come here?" Melissa asked before she could stop herself. "If it's too painful," Robert looked directly at her, "because if I can prevent another family from going through what mine did, the pain is worth it." Melissa felt tears burning her eyes. There was something in how Robert spoke that touched her deeply. "Your turn." Helen smiled gently at Melissa. "I don't know what to say." "Say whatever you feel like. No pressure." Melissa took a deep breath. "My name is Melissa. I found out I have breast cancer last week. I start treatment tomorrow, and I'm terrified." "Everyone is," Helen assured. "It's normal." "I have a young daughter," Melissa continued, holding Emma tighter, "and I'm so afraid I won't be here to see her grow up, so afraid of dying and leaving her alone." "You're not going to die," Emma suddenly spoke, her clear little voice cutting through the silence. "You promised you'd fight." "I did promise." "Then you're going to win," Emma decided, as if it were that simple. There were some wet laughs around the circle. Helen knelt in front of Emma. "You're a very smart little girl, you know." "I know," Emma replied, serious. "My teacher always says that." The laughter grew, cutting through some of the tension. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of conversations and stories. When they finally left, Melissa felt strangely lighter, as if sharing the weight had made it a little easier to carry. The first chemotherapy session was on a rainy Thursday. Melissa woke up with a queasy stomach, barely able to eat breakfast. Michael drove silently to the hospital. Emma had insisted on going, but in the end they agreed it was better for her to stay with Barbara. The chemotherapy room was large, with several reclining chairs lined up. There was a television on the wall, playing an old soap opera. Some people were undergoing treatment alone, others had company. A friendly nurse named Sarah led Melissa to an empty chair near the window. "First time, right?" "Yes. How did you know?" "We always know," Sarah smiled. "No need to be afraid. I'll explain everything." She explained how it would work. The medication would be applied directly into the vein through a catheter. It would take about 3 hours. Melissa might feel nausea, cold, tiredness, But Sarah would be there the whole time, monitoring. Ready? Melissa wasn't. She never would be. But she agreed anyway. The first needle prick was worse than she expected, but after that it was just waiting. The medication dripped slowly from the clear plastic bag into her veins. It was strange to think that what looked like just water was killing cells inside her. Good cells and bad, but mostly the bad ones, she hoped. Michael sat beside her, holding her hand. They didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. They were just there, together. In the second hour, Melissa started to feel nauseous. Sarah gave her some medicine to help, but it didn't go away completely. In the third hour, she just wanted to go home and lie down. When they finally finished, Melissa stood up carefully. Her legs were wobbly, her head heavy. "It will get worse over the next few days," Sarah warned gently. "But then it gets better, and then you come back for the next session." In the car, driving home, Melissa looked out the window. The rain had stopped and the sun was trying to break through the clouds. People walked on the sidewalks, living their normal lives. She felt disconnected from it all, as if she were seeing the world through glass. "How are you feeling?" Michael asked. "Tired," was all she could say. In the following days, it was just as Sarah had warned. The nausea got worse. Melissa could barely eat. Everything tasted metallic. The exhaustion was so deep that even taking a shower seemed exhausting. Emma tried to help in her own way. She brought drawings for her mother, tried to make her smile, stayed quiet so as not to bother. Barbara came by every day with food, helped with cleaning, stayed with Emma when Melissa needed to sleep. On the 5th day after the first session, Melissa woke up and found a clump of hair on her pillow. Her heart stopped. She knew it was going to happen. She had mentally prepared herself, but seeing it there, real and undeniable, was a shock. She went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She gently pulled a strand of hair. It came out easily. Another. Another. It was falling out in large amounts. Michael appeared at the bathroom door. "Melissa, I'm going to shave it," she decided. "All of it now." "Are you sure? I'd rather be in control than watch it fall out little by little." Michael got the clippers he used to trim his own beard. Melissa sat on the edge of the bathtub. Emma appeared at the door, her eyes wide. "Mommy, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to cut my hair, sweetie." "All of it?" "All of it." Emma thought for a moment, then ran to her room. She came back with a small pair of paper scissors. "I want to cut mine too." "What?" Melissa and Michael said at the same time. "If Mommy is going to be without hair, I'm going to be too. We'll be the same." "Emma, no." Melissa tried, but her voice failed. "You don't have to do that." "But I want to," Emma insisted. "That way you won't be alone." Melissa started to cry. Michael had tears in his eyes too. Emma just looked at them, confused by their reaction. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, my love." Melissa pulled her into a hug. "You didn't say anything wrong, you're perfect." In the end, they didn't cut Emma's hair. Melissa convinced her daughter that it wasn't necessary, that each of them could have their own way of being strong. But the gesture, Emma's willingness to do it, was etched in Melissa's heart. Michael carefully ran the clippers, removing all the brown hair that Melissa had grown for years. She closed her eyes and tried not to think. When he finished, she looked at herself in the mirror. She was unrecognizable. The woman staring back at her was bald, pale with deep dark circles. She looked sick, because she was sick. "You look beautiful, Mommy," Emma said, climbing onto the sink to be at the right height. "You look like a superhero, like the man said." Melissa tried to smile but couldn't. She left the bathroom and went straight to the bedroom, where she locked herself in and cried until she had no tears left. In the days that followed, leaving the house was a challenge. Melissa wore the scarf that Ruth had given her, but even so she felt everyone's stares. Real or imagined, it didn't matter. She felt exposed, vulnerable. At the second chemotherapy session, 3 weeks after the first, she was a little more prepared. She knew what to expect, but it didn't get any easier. In fact, it was worse. Her body was already weakened from the first session, so it reacted even worse to the second. It was during the third session, 2 months after the diagnosis, that everything really took a turn for the worse. Melissa was in the chair trying to ignore the constant nausea when she felt a sharp pain in her chest. It was different from anything she had felt before. She pressed the button to call the nurse. "I'm in pain. Here." She pointed to her chest, near the tumor. Sarah called the doctor immediately. He examined her, pressed gently, asked questions. In the end, he decided to stop the session and do an emergency ultrasound. The ultrasound revealed that the tumor had grown. Not by much, but enough to be concerning. The treatment wasn't working as it should. "What does this mean?" Michael asked, his voice tense. "It means we need to change our approach," Dr. William Anderson explained. "We'll try a more aggressive protocol, more drugs, higher doses." "But she's already so sick with the current treatment," Michael protested. "How will she handle a stronger one?" "It will be difficult," the doctor didn't minimize, "but it's necessary." Melissa Turner listened to everything in a state of shock. The treatment wasn't working. The cancer was growing. She was killing herself taking these poisons, and it wasn't helping. "Is there another option?" she asked, her voice weak. "We could try surgery first, remove the tumor now before finishing chemo, but it's risky. The tumor might be more extensive than the tests show." "And if I do nothing?" "Melissa," Michael began. "No," she interrupted. "I need to know. If I stop treatment now, how long do I have?" The doctor sighed. "A few months, maybe a year. It depends on how the tumor progresses." Melissa closed her eyes. A few months. 1 year. Emma was 6 years old. She wouldn't see her daughter turn 7. She wouldn't see her learn to read properly, wouldn't see her lose her first baby tooth, wouldn't see anything. "I'll do the stronger treatment," she decided. "Are you sure?" the doctor asked. "You need to understand what you'll face. Severe nausea, constant vomiting, mouth and throat sores, complete loss of appetite, high risk of infections. You'll need constant monitoring." "I understand. And I'll do it." The news spread quickly. When she got home that night, Barbara was already waiting at the apartment door. She hugged Melissa without saying anything, just holding her tight. At the next Compassionate Riders group meeting, which happened a few days later, Melissa told everyone about the treatment change. The reactions were mixed, some optimistic, others worried. Robert Wilson stayed quiet throughout the meeting, his face closed off. Later, when everyone was leaving, he pulled her aside. "Are you sure about this?" "I am." "Why?" "Because—" He hesitated. "Jennifer had an aggressive treatment at the end, too. And it was terrible, watching her suffer like that, knowing it wouldn't help." "But it might help me," Melissa argued. "The doctor said I have a chance." "Chance," Robert repeated, bitter. "They always talk about chances." "Look, I understand you went through something horrible," Melissa said, trying to stay calm. "But I'm not your wife. My situation is different." "Oh, really?" Robert stared at her. "You have a young daughter. She had a young son. You're betting everything on this treatment. She bet everything too. And in the end, it stole the last good months she could have had with her family." The words cut deep. Melissa felt anger rising. "So you think I should give up? Is that it? I think you should think about what's best for Emma. Quality of time is sometimes worth more than quantity. And who are you to decide that?" "Someone who knows what it's like," Robert answered, his voice getting louder. "Someone who watched someone they love waste their last months in a hospital bed instead of doing things that mattered." "So you're saying she wasted her time, that she should have given up?" "I'm saying she should have had a choice," Robert exploded. "But the doctors kept filling her head with percentages and protocols and one more treatment, just one more, and she believed them, and she suffered, and it still didn't help at all." Michael appeared between them, putting a hand on his sister's shoulder. "I think we better go." "Yeah, you better." Robert turned his back and left, slamming the workshop door behind him. Kevin Mitchell approached, concerned. "Sorry. Robert, sometimes. He's still processing everything." "I understand," Melissa said, but deep down she didn't understand. She was hurt, confused, and more afraid than before. In the car, driving home, Michael finally spoke. "Are you thinking about what he said?" It's impossible not to think about it. He's wrong, you're doing the right thing. How do you know? Melissa turned to her brother. How does anyone know what the right choice is in this situation? Michael had no answer for that. The new treatment protocol started the following week. It was more intense in every way. 3 different drugs instead of 2, higher doses, longer sessions. Melissa started vomiting before even leaving the hospital. Sarah was prepared with anti-nausea medication, but it only helped a little. On the 3rd day after the first session of the new protocol, Melissa couldn't eat anything anymore. Everything came back up. Michael called the hospital, desperate. They told them to go to the emergency room. Melissa was hospitalized for severe dehydration. She spent 3 days in the hospital receiving fluids through an IV, unable to eat any solid food. Emma stayed with Barbara during those days. When Melissa finally returned home, her daughter barely recognized her. She had lost so much weight that her clothes hung loose, her skin was grayish, her eyes sunken. "Mommy?" Emma called hesitantly. "Hi, my love." Melissa tried to smile. Emma didn't run to hug her like she always did. She stood still, her eyes wide with fear. "Are you okay?" "I will be," Melissa promised, but even she didn't believe it anymore. That night, after putting Emma to sleep, Melissa sat on the couch with Michael. The television was on, but neither of them was paying attention. "I don't know if I can keep going," she admitted quietly. "You have to. You're in the middle of treatment. Giving up now would mean throwing away everything you've been through, or it would mean cutting our losses while I still have some quality of life." Michael didn't answer. They sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. In the following days, Melissa slowly started to improve. She managed to eat a few spoonfuls of soup, then half a bowl, then a whole one. She gained a little energy back, enough to get out of bed at least. But soon the day of the next session arrived, and everything started again. The cycle of treatment, nausea, vomiting, weakness. It was an endless roller coaster. It was during the 4th session of the aggressive protocol, 3 months after the initial diagnosis, that Dr. William Anderson ordered new tests. They wanted to see how the tumor was responding to the stronger treatment. Melissa had the ultrasound and mammogram in a state of detachment. She didn't even feel fear anymore. It was just another procedure on an endless list. The appointment to hear the results was scheduled for the following Friday. Melissa brought Michael but left Emma with Barbara this time. She had a bad feeling. Dr. William Anderson entered the room with the test folder. He sat down and opened the documents, studying them for a long moment before speaking. "The tumor has shrunk," he finally said. Melissa thought she had misheard. "What?" "The tumor has shrunk significantly. About 40%. The treatment is working." The relief was so great that Melissa started to cry. Michael laughed and cried at the same time, holding his sister's hand. "So she's going to be okay?" "We still have a long way to go," the doctor warned. 3 more sessions of this protocol, then surgery, then possibly radiation. But yes, the prognosis has improved considerably. For the first time in months, Melissa felt something she had forgotten: hope. At that week's Compassionate Riders group meeting, she shared the good news. Everyone celebrated, hugs and tears all around. Even Robert smiled, although he still kept his distance. "I owe you an apology," he said later when most people had already left. "I shouldn't have said that. I projected my pain onto you." "You were just trying to protect me," Melissa replied. "In your own twisted way, but you were trying." Robert gave a short laugh. "Crooked. That's a good description." "How's Nathan doing?" "Better. Therapy is helping. He still has nightmares, but not as often." "And you?" "Me?" Robert seemed surprised by the question. "I'm managing." "You should try therapy too, you know." "Probably," he agreed. "But recognizing the problem is the first step, right?" They laughed, a real laugh for the first time. It felt good, normal, human. The last 3 sessions of the aggressive protocol were as bad as the others, but Melissa endured because she knew it was working. Every day of nausea, every morning waking up too weak to get up, every meal she couldn't finish was worth it if it meant she would survive. The surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks after the last chemotherapy session. It would be a partial mastectomy, removing the tumor and a safety margin around it. Emma had questions, lots of questions. Will it hurt? Not during, because I'll be asleep. Afterwards, yes, it will hurt a little. How long will you be in the hospital? A few days. Can I visit? Yes, you can, my love. Will you come back different? That caught Melissa by surprise. Why do you ask that? Because your chest will be different, right? That's what Mrs. Barbara said. Melissa would have to have a talk with Barbara about filters, but at the same time, it was better for Emma to hear the truth than to create fantasies in her head. Yes, it will. There will be a scar, but I'll still be me. You'll be the mom with a superhero scar, Emma decided, like the battle scars in the movies. Melissa couldn't help but smile. Yeah, like that. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The surgery was on a cloudy August day. Melissa woke up at 5 in the morning, too nervous to eat anything, although she couldn't eat before the surgery anyway. Michael took her to the hospital. Emma stayed with Barbara, but made sure to give her a tight hug before. You're going to rock this, Mom, the girl said with conviction. You're the strongest. Thank you, my love. I love you. I love you too. See you later. See you later. So simple, so full of confidence, as if there was no doubt that Melissa would return. At the hospital, Melissa was prepared for surgery. She changed her clothes, put on the cap, lay down on the gurney. The anesthesiologist came to explain the procedure, ask the routine questions, confirm everything was okay. You'll start to feel sleepy in a few seconds, she explained, inserting the medication into the catheter. When you wake up, it will all be over. Melissa closed her eyes and counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. She woke up what felt like a second later, but actually 4 hours had passed. She was in the recovery room, dizzy, confused, with pain in her chest. Easy, easy. A nurse was by her side. The surgery is over. Everything went well. My brother, he's waiting outside. You can see him soon. The pain was intense, even with the painkillers. Melissa tried to move and groaned. Don't move too much, the nurse advised. You just came out of surgery. The next few hours passed in a blur of sleep, pain, medication, more sleep. When she finally managed to stay awake enough, she was in a room. Michael was sitting in a chair next to the bed, his head resting on his hand, half asleep. Michael, she called, her voice hoarse. He lifted his head immediately. You're awake. How are you? In pain, but alive. He laughed, a sound of pure relief. The doctor said everything went well. They managed to remove the entire tumor with a clean margin. It hadn't spread to the lymph nodes. Melissa closed her eyes, letting the tears flow. Is it true? It's true. Emma visited the next day. She entered the room holding Barbara's hand, her eyes wide as she saw her mother in the hospital bed, surrounded by tubes and machines. Hi, Mommy. Hi, sweetie. Melissa opened her arms. Come here. Emma ran and jumped onto the bed, careful not to hurt her. Melissa hugged her daughter, breathing in the scent of children's shampoo, feeling the warmth of the small body against hers. Are you better? Yes, I am. Did the doctor take the bad thing out of you? He did. It's all clean now. So you're cured? Melissa hesitated. Dr. William Anderson had been clear. The tumor was out, but she would still have to undergo radiation therapy. She would still need follow-up care for years. The cancer could come back. But she wasn't going to put that in Emma's head. Yes, sweetie, I'm cured. Emma smiled, a huge smile that lit up the hospital room better than any light. Melissa was hospitalized for 5 days. They were long, uncomfortable days, but also days of recovery. She had the tubes removed one by one. She managed to get out of bed. She managed to walk down the hallway. She managed to shower by herself. On the day she was discharged, she looked in the mirror for the first time since the surgery. The bandage covered the left side of her chest. She knew underneath was a large, red, ugly scar, but she also knew It was a victory scar. "Ready to go home?" Michael asked from the doorway. "More than ready." The return home was emotional. Barbara had organized a small gathering. The group of compassionate riders was there, many neighbors, some co-workers. There was a poorly made cake with the words, "Welcome back, warrior," written in pink icing. Emma ran to her mother as soon as she entered. "Surprise! Is it a party?" Melissa asked, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes." Kevin appeared with a bottle of soda. "We wanted to celebrate." "Celebrate what? I still have to do radiation therapy." "Celebrate you being alive," Robert said, appearing next to Kevin. "Celebrate you fighting and winning." "I haven't completely won yet." "Yes, you have," he insisted. "The rest is just formality." The party was small, simple, but perfect. Melissa ate a piece of cake, the first sweet she could really taste in months. She talked with people, received hugs, heard stories. Mr. Reynolds approached with an envelope. "We collected this for you," he handed it over, "to help with the costs during your recovery." Melissa opened the envelope. There was money inside. She didn't know how much without counting, but it seemed like a lot. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," Mr. Reynolds insisted. "You already paid back those $1,200, even though I said you didn't have to. This is different. It's a gift. From the whole community." "But—" "No buts," he cut in, smiling. "Just accept it." Melissa held the envelope to her chest, too emotional to speak. The following months were of slow but steady recovery. The radiation therapy was easier than the chemotherapy, though still tiring. It was daily sessions for 6 weeks, but each one lasted only a few minutes. Melissa returned to work part-time after 3 months. Linda, the manager, had kept her position, even with all the time she was away. "How are you?" she asked on her first day back. "Better. Tired, but better." "If you need anything at all, just say so." Melissa's hair started to grow back. It came in different than before, curlier, a bit darker. But it came. She stopped wearing scarves after a few months, letting the short curls show. Emma was proud. "Your hair is prettier than before, Mum." "You think so?" "I do. You look younger." Melissa laughed. She didn't feel younger. She felt older, more tired, more worn, but also stronger, wiser, more grateful for each day. 1 year after the diagnosis, Melissa had her first follow-up exam. She was nervous but not terrified like before. She had learned to deal with uncertainty. The result came back clean, no signs of recurrence. 6 months later, another exam. Clean again. Another 6 months. Clean. Each clean result was a victory. Each mark passed on the calendar was a gift. Emma grew up, turned 7, then 8, lost her first baby tooth, learned to ride a bike, started having friends at school, her own interests, her personality developing, and Melissa was there to see it all. 3 years after the diagnosis, Dr. William Anderson smiled during a routine checkup. 3 years without recurrence. The statistics are on your side now. So can I say I'm cured? Technically, we wait 5 years to declare complete remission, but between us, you're cured. Melissa left the appointment floating. She grabbed the phone and called Michael. "I'm cured." "What?" The doctor said, 3 years clean. "I'm cured, Michael." She could hear him crying on the other end of the line. "I knew it. I always knew you would make it." That night, Melissa sat with Emma on the couch. The girl was bigger now, 9 years old, with long curly hair, a smile full of missing teeth. "Remember when I got sick?" "I remember," Emma replied. "You lost your hair and were tired a lot." "That's right. The doctor said today that I'm cured." Emma stopped what she was doing and looked at her mother. "Really? Really?" Emma threw her arms around Melissa, hugging her tight. "I always knew you'd be okay. You're the strongest." "No, my love," Melissa gently corrected. "We are the strongest. The two of us together." The Compassionate Riders group meeting that month was special. Melissa shared the news with everyone. There were applause, hugs, tears of joy. Helen, the facilitator, approached at the end. "Would you mind helping other people? Telling your story to those starting treatment?" "Of course, it would be an honor." And that's how Melissa began visiting hospitals regularly. She talked to newly diagnosed patients, offered the comfort of experience, showed that it was possible to survive. Robert was also going on the visits. He and Melissa formed a strange but effective pair. She told the story of overcoming. He told the story of loss. Together, they gave a complete, honest, and real view of what it was like to face cancer. "Do you think Jennifer would have been happy with this?" Melissa asked one day after a particularly difficult visit. "With you helping other people?" Robert thought for a long moment. "Yes, she always wanted her suffering to mean something. I think this gives it meaning." Nathan, Robert's son, was doing better too. He was now 11, taller, more mature. He and Emma became unlikely friends, united by the shared experience of almost losing their mothers. "Your mom is cool," Nathan said to Emma at one of their meetings. "Yours was too," Emma replied with the brutal honesty of children. "Uncle Robert talks about her sometimes. She seems like she was really cool." "She was," Nathan agreed, sad but also at peace. "I still miss her every day, but it's getting easier. I would have missed my mom a lot too if she had gone. But she didn't." "No," Emma smiled. "She fought and won." 5 years after the diagnosis, Melissa returned to the hospital for the milestone appointment. 5 years clean. Complete remission. Cured. Dr. William Anderson shook her hand with a genuine smile. "Congratulations. You've joined the success statistics. Thank you for everything. You did all the hard work. I just helped." Melissa left the hospital and called everyone. Michael, Barbara, the Compassionate Riders group, co-workers, everyone celebrated as if it were a collective victory. Because it was. The celebration was big this time. At Mr. Reynolds's workshop, decorated with balloons and little flags. There were many more people than the first time. People Melissa had helped during her own treatments. Survivors, caregivers, family members. Kevin made a toast. "To Melissa, who showed us that strength isn't about never falling but always getting back up." "To Melissa," everyone repeated, raising glasses of soda and juice. Emma was next to her mother, holding her hand. At 11 years old now, she had grown up, beautiful, smart, and she had a mother to guide her through adolescence, through youth, through life. "Mommy, can I speak?" "Of course." Emma turned to the gathered crowd. "I wanted to thank all of you. When my mum got sick, I was really scared. I didn't understand what was happening, but you all helped. You were there. Uncle Michael, Mrs. Barbara, Mr. Reynolds, Kevin, Robert, everyone. You saved my mum, not just with money or rides or food, but by showing her she wasn't alone." There wasn't a dry eye in the workshop. Melissa hugged her daughter tightly, whispering in her ear, "I love you so much. I love you too, Mommy. Forever." Life returned to normal little by little, or rather, a new normal. Melissa would never be the same person she was before the diagnosis. She had scars, physical and emotional, but she also had an appreciation for life that she didn't have before. She stopped putting things off. She took Emma to the beach, like the girl had drawn years ago. They played in the sand, swam in the sea, ate ice cream until they felt sick. Michael managed to buy another motorcycle using the money he had saved working overtime. He took Emma for rides on Sundays, both of them laughing with the wind in their faces. Barbara became practically part of the family. She and Melissa had coffee together every morning, talking about everything and nothing. The biker group grew. What had started as a handful of people turned into a support network with over 50 members. They didn't just help with cancer, they helped with any crisis: unemployment, family problems, illness, grief. "We should have an official name," Kevin suggested at a meeting, "like an association or something." "How about Compassionate Riders?" someone proposed. "Too formal," another complained. "How about just community?" Robert suggested. Simple and direct. Everyone agreed. And so the community was officially born, a group of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Melissa became one of the coordinators, along with Helen and Mr. Reynolds. They organized the monthly meetings, coordinated help when needed, made the connection between those who needed help and those who could help. 10 years after the diagnosis, Melissa was sitting in a lecture she had been invited to give. It was at a university for medical students. She told her story from beginning to end. The terror of the diagnosis, the difficulty of the treatment, the support from the community, the final victory. What was the most difficult moment? A student asked. Melissa thought carefully. It wasn't the physical pain. It wasn't losing my hair or feeling sick from the chemo. It was when I thought I was going to have to give up. When the first treatment didn't work and I had to face a more aggressive protocol. At that moment, I almost gave up. I almost chose quality over quantity. Why didn't you give up? For my daughter, Melissa answered simply, and for the community that formed around me. They didn't let me give up, even when I wanted to. Another student raised his hand. What advice would you give to someone who just received a cancer diagnosis? Don't try to do this alone, Melissa said without hesitation. Accept help. Ask for help. You will need much more support than you think, and don't be ashamed of being scared. Being scared is human. Giving up because of fear is the real problem. After the talk, several students came to speak with her. One young woman with tears in her eyes revealed that her mother had just received a similar diagnosis. Can she talk to you? Of course. Melissa gave her number. Call me, any time. On the way back home, Melissa thought about how her life had changed. 10 years ago, she was a supermarket cashier, a single mother, living day by day without thinking much about the future. Now she was a survivor, a speaker, a community coordinator, a source of hope for other people going through the worst moments of their lives. Emma, now 16, was home when she arrived. The girl had grown into a beautiful, intelligent young woman with dreams of becoming a doctor. How was the talk? Good. Tiring, but good. You saved more lives today, Mom. Melissa smiled. I just shared my story. That's exactly what saves lives, Emma insisted. Knowing that someone else went through this and survived, that there's hope. 15 years after the diagnosis, the community organized a big event. It was to celebrate 1,000 people helped over the years, 1,000 different stories, 1,000 lives touched. The event was held at the city park, with food stalls, live music, and games for children. Hundreds of people showed up. Cancer survivors, survivors of other illnesses, people who had received financial, emotional, and practical help. Melissa walked through the park, seeing all those faces. Some people she knew well, others she had only seen once or twice, but they were all part of the same support network. Robert appeared by her side, his hair now more grey than black. Can you believe this? No, Melissa admitted. When that desperate little girl ran down the street screaming for help, I never imagined it would lead to this. Sometimes the best things start in the worst moments. Nathan was there too, now a 21-year-old young man studying to become a psychologist. He and Emma were still friends, although each had gone their own way. Michael appeared with a beer in his hand, smiling. Your daughter's dating, you know. Yes, I know, Melissa replied. I met the boy last week. He seems nice. She grew up so fast. She did, Melissa agreed, watching Emma chatting animatedly with a group of friends. But she grew up happy and healthy and with a mother who's there for her. That's all I ever wanted. Barbara came over with a piece of cake. Try this. Mrs. Rachel made it. It's delicious. You're always with food, Melissa joked, but took the cake anyway. It's my love language, Barbara replied. And someone needs to make you gain a few pounds. You're still too thin. I eat. I just have a fast metabolism. Or you spend the whole day running around helping others and forget to eat properly. Melissa couldn't deny it. It was true. At the end of the evening, when most people had left, the organizing team gathered to clean up. Kevin was putting away the chairs, while Mr. Reynolds took down the stalls. We should do this every year, Helen suggested. I agree, Melissa said, and next time we can make it even bigger. You're all crazy, Michael joked, but I love it. 20 years after the diagnosis, Melissa turned 62. Emma was finishing her medical residency in oncology. The choice of specialty was no coincidence. I want to help others the way you were helped, Emma had explained years ago. Not the way I was helped, Melissa corrected. Better, you'll have all the knowledge I didn't have. You'll be able to make an even bigger difference. The community had expanded to other neighborhoods, other cities. It had become an official organization with an EIN and everything. They had managed to partner with hospitals, pharmacies, and companies. Robert had become the organization's president. Nathan was the project director. Kevin handled logistics. Helen continued facilitating support meetings. Mr. Reynolds had even closed his workshop to dedicate himself full-time to the community. And Melissa, she was simply called the founder, though she always insisted she hadn't founded anything alone. "It's not about who started it," she always said. "It's about who continues." At the 20-year event since her cure, Melissa looked around and saw a real crowd. Thousands of people, stories intertwining, lives crossing, hope multiplying. Emma approached, now a graduated doctor, engaged, with plans to marry the following year. "Mom, the organizers are asking you to give a speech." "Again?" Melissa groaned. "I've already spoken at 1,000 events. But this one is special, 20 years. All right, I'll go." Melissa climbed onto the small stage set up in the park, the same park where it all began, where she had sat on that bench struggling not to fall apart. "Good afternoon, everyone," her voice echoed through the speakers. 20 years ago, I received news that changed my life. Breast cancer, stage 2. I thought it was the end, that I would lose everything. My daughter, my life, everything." The crowd was silent, everyone paying attention. But it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of understanding what truly matters, the beginning of building real connections, the beginning of learning that none of us goes through this life alone. When that little 6-year-old girl ran into the street screaming for help, 2 motorcyclists stopped. They didn't have to stop, they didn't know me. They owed me nothing, but they stopped. And by stopping, they started a chain reaction that led to here. Melissa looked at Robert and Kevin, who were in the front row. Both were crying unashamedly. "I learned that strength isn't fighting alone. It's accepting help. It's reaching out when you need to and reaching back when you can. It's building a network so strong that when one person falls, there are 10 others to catch them." So, thank you to all of you, to the motorcyclists who stopped that day, to the neighbors who offered support, to the doctor who didn't give up, to the community that formed, and especially to my daughter, who gave me a reason to fight every day. The crowd erupted in applause. Melissa stepped off the stage and was enveloped in hugs from all sides. Emma hugged her last, whispering in her ear, "I'm so proud of you, Mom. And I'm proud of you, my daughter. Always." That night, after everyone had left, Melissa stayed alone in the park for a few minutes. She watched the stars appearing in the darkening sky. She thought about everything she had been through, all the suffering, all the pain, all the fear, and then she thought about everything she had gained, not just more years of life, though that was precious, but real connections, purpose, the chance to make a difference. Was it worth it? She asked herself. Absolutely. The answer came without hesitation. Melissa smiled, picked up her bag, and went home. To the small apartment she still shared with Emma, though her daughter was planning to move out soon, to the normal, everyday, precious life she had built. There had been bad days. There would be more bad days in the future. It was inevitable. But there had also been and would be good days. Days of love, laughter, purpose. And in the end, those were the days that mattered. Not the quantity, but the quality. Not just surviving, but living. End of story. And you? What did you think of this story of overcoming? Tell us where you're watching from, and if you've ever been through a similar situation. Leave your comment, your like, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one.